Hi again, everybody, and welcome back to Ed Randall's Talking Rams. Here on this video series, we're paying tribute to those men and women, members of the Athletic Hall of Fame who distinguished themselves on the field of play and brought honor to Fordham University. We hope you'll pass the word along about this series to all of your friends in the Fordham community and have them tune in. We continue our series of conversations with a 2021 inductee into our Hall of Fame who made history on the football field. He was one of the most prolific quarterbacks in our history. He had one of the most successful seasons ever in 2013. He led the FCS in total offense. He set school and Patriot League single season records in passing yards and passing efficiency. He tied the Patriot League record with 9 300-yard passing games, set school records for completions and touchdowns in a season and passing yards in a game. He became only the second quarterback in school history to rush for more than 100 yards in a game. All this despite playing only 2+ years. He was named two-time Patriot League Offensive Player of the Year, two-time first-team All-Patriot League, two-time All-American, and two-time Lombardi Award recipient. He holds the record for completion percentage and ranks second on the career completion list and passing yards, and is third on the career list for touchdown passes. We welcome back to Fordham one of the elite players in school history, whose plaque from 2021 you can see in the Rose Hill Gym, Mike Nebrich, Fordham College, class of 2015, whose handle on X is Young Neebs. Hey, Young Neebs, welcome back to Fordham.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me, and it's an honor to speak with you.
It's an honor for us to have you, Mike. First, this 4 sisters, 1 older, 3 younger. How was that working for you growing up?
Yeah, I mean, having a big family is a lot. I think, especially in the Christian faith, Christian community, I think you see that more often than not. A lot of people grow up in big families, and that was something that I had the pleasure of experiencing. It was definitely a trial. We could say that, especially with 4 sisters. But you know what? It kind of raised me to be the man I am. Kind of pushed me to be a better person, and it's something that I'm grateful for.
Before Fordham, you became the all-time leader in Virginia high school history, breaking the state record for all-purpose yards with almost 5,050 touchdowns. You also earned 3 letters in baseball. But was football always number one, Mike?
To be honest, going through high school, it was a split down the middle. I was kind of a baseball player first. I obviously thoroughly enjoyed playing football, but baseball was always kind of my first passion. And then as I kind of transitioned, as I was going through freshman, sophomore year, really once I got to my junior year of football, I kind of realized, okay, this is a sport that I could probably take to the next level, right? Maybe it's a scholarship, or even you start getting the hopes and dreams of the NFL. So that was kind of the year that I said, okay, this is a sport I can probably excel in and take on further with me. So I would say my junior year, I kind of slowly transitioned my mindset over towards football. And it paid out for me. We had 2 incredible years at Lake Braddock, my junior and senior year. I was blessed with growing up with a really incredible group of guys, both football and baseball. Previously my freshman year, we really were not good at football. And we just kind of ran into a group of kids that, as we grew up together, we just got better together, and we took that into high school. And like I said, my junior and senior year, we had historic years for the program, and that kind of obviously transitioned me into college football.
What position did you play in baseball?
I was a center fielder. I was always the fastest kid on the team, so that's kind of the position that the fast kid goes and plays.
Yeah. Yes, it is. The center fielders and the shortstops and the pitcher. That's it when it comes to high school baseball. You picked UConn because of your relationship with Joe Moorhead. Tell us about the genesis of you meeting Joe Moorhead.
Yeah, so I was being recruited pretty heavily my junior year, at the end of my junior year. And Coach Moorhead came to the office one day, brought me in, sat me down, and obviously everybody knows UConn, but everybody knows UConn for basketball. And I really hadn't looked into the program, hadn't even thought about it. I knew they were in the Big East, but the more I kind of talked to Coach Moorhead, obviously the better relationship we had, but the more he talked about his offense, and the way he wanted to incorporate me into the offense, and where he believed we could take the UConn program, the more I kind of bought in. And the more I looked into it, it was an up and coming program. The year that I committed there, they ended up winning the Big East, went on to play Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl, played them tough. And it was a program that I was really excited about because, again, they were up and coming. Everything was on the right track. And then obviously with Coach Edsall leaving, things kind of took a turn there. But really it was about my relationship with Coach Moorhead more than anything. We developed an incredible bond with each other, all the way through the recruiting process. And even in my first year there, right before he left to go to Fordham, we always stuck together, no matter what was going on, all the hard times that we had that first year at UConn. We always stuck together. We always believed in each other. And ultimately that's kind of why when I made the decision to leave UConn, Coach Moorhead was my first call, and he was my only stop on my way down home from Connecticut. He was the only stopping in the Bronx, going to see him, and we all kind of know how that turned out.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what you just said. You played sparingly as a freshman at UConn, playing 8 games, but you're unhappy. You tell mom you're thinking of transferring because of a regime change. You had mentioned that the coach that had recruited you had left before you even hit the field. Tell us, if you will, mom's reaction about your thoughts of transferring.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely quick. Back then there was no transfer portal. There was no college football wasn't what it is today, right? So basically, after Coach Moorhead left, I actually stuck around to UConn. He left right at the end of the fall season, so I stuck around. That was my first choice in school. I loved the school. I loved the guys that I was with, and I truly believed that I was the best quarterback option for the team. So we went through the spring practice, we went through fall camp, and the first 2 weeks of fall camp, I believed that I was going to give us the best option to win. The coaches obviously felt a little bit different, so they ended up going with another player, announcing that he was going to be the starter for week 1. And at that point, I kind of told myself, all right, this isn't where I need to be. It's not the place that's going to give me the best shot to succeed. So I actually talked to one of my buddies from UConn who transferred after our first year. He was at Towson at the time, and Towson was a really good football program. So I started talking to him, and actually the head coach at Towson kind of recruited me out of high school as well. So we had a little bit of a relationship there. Said, all right, I'm going to pack up and head down south, come and see you. And as I was basically packing up to leave, I mean, we're talking like a 2-day period here where I walked into the coach's office, said, hey, I'd like to transfer. He gave me my papers the next day. I packed the truck up and left. And as I start heading down south, I give Coach Moorhead a call and say, hey, I'm obviously passing through New York on the way down. Would love to stop in and see you. So that's kind of how it went. As I'm driving down.
What made you do that? What made you do that? What made you pick up the phone and call Moorhead on your way?
Well, again, I think it kind of goes to the relationship we built. And it wasn't just Coach Moorhead. This obviously goes to Coach Briner as well, who was the offense coordinator, quarterback coach at the time. He was a GA when I was at UConn, and we developed an incredible relationship as well. So I knew that they were both there. Obviously, I knew that the offense that he wanted to run was going to be put in place. So I figured, why not? Let me just give him a call, see what's going on. Let me go check out the school, check out the campus. And really when I got there and sat down with Coach Moorhead, kind of looking at everything, looking at the facilities, we all know Fordham doesn't have world-class football facilities, especially coming from a school in the Big East where, we had a dedicated football facility, locker rooms and, stadium, all that stuff. Right. So, really what sold me was Coach Moorhead and I sat down kind of towards the end of the trip, and he looked at me and he said, basically, it's not often in life that you get a second chance to do something, right? And that was our second chance. We had this grand plan going into UConn, how we're going to take the Huskies to, perennial Big East powers and do great things there together. It didn't work out. So this was our second chance to take a program who in the previous year was winless, right? They were 0-11, 0-12, whatever it was the year before that. And this was our chance to take a program that didn't have a whole lot of success recently and take it to new heights. And when he said that to me, it just kind of hit home. That's really what ended up making the decision for me.
So you tell mom you're coming to Fordham, and mom says, "Where's Fordham?" And you say, "In the Bronx." And she says, "I'll
Yeah,
give it away, or you
it was a
will." Are
shock.
you not?
Yeah, it was a shocker for sure. We went from a massive a massive basically college town in Storrs, Connecticut to a tiny little school in the borough of the Bronx, right? So it was definitely a shock for the whole family. I mean, it was a shock for me too. It's kind of a culture shock going from a place like Storrs, Connecticut to the Bronx, New York. So it was definitely a shock, but it's a decision that I felt good about. And ultimately it was my decision to make. So that's kind of the path that I took.
And mom would show up in section H wearing number 12, watching you make your magic through the years.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we got blessed. Obviously that first year there was not easy. I came in basically 2.5, 3 weeks into camp with basically a week and a half left before the regular season started. So that was very trialsome. Me and Coach Briner basically stayed up from dusk to dawn trying to get the playbook down and trying to get acclimated into the office, trying to get on time with wide receivers so that I could be ready for the regular season. And then obviously I think it was in either game 2 or 3, I ended up tearing my ACL. So it was a lot for a 19-year-old kid. That was a lot to handle. Basically leaving your dream school to come down to Fordham, try and do big things. And then you have the shock of tearing your ACL, really my first injury of my entire career. So, that first year at Fordham was definitely difficult, but, it kind of set us up for the success that we had in the following 2 years.
You shared the quarterback job your first year at Fordham. You passed for 1 touchdown. You ran for another before suffering the season-ending ACL injury. You made your way into game action in week 3 against Cornell, and Moorhead puts 2 quarterbacks on the field into the huddle. And unfortunately, that was when you got hurt, right?
Yeah. It was a design, basically a jet sweep around. I was a very mobile quarterback at the time. I wasn't truly acclimated into the offense in terms of the passing game yet. So it was really just a matter of how can we get me on the field and how can I, contribute to the team's success. So it was really just kind of a designed sweep around the edge. Unfortunately, I planted the right leg to try and get inside the defender, and that's when the ACL happened.
I want to talk about 2013, but I want to set it aside for a moment. I want you to talk about your life on campus. What do you remember about your first day on campus as a student at Fordham after having completed the transfer? What do you remember?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I think the biggest thing that people don't truly understand about Fordham is, everybody hears that, oh, it's in the Bronx, right? And you get that stigma of the Bronx. When you step onto the campus of Fordham, you totally forget that you're in the middle of a city. Just the way the buildings, just the way it's set up, everything is so perfectly designed that you forget that you're in the middle of a city and you just feel like you're in college. And it's obviously a smaller school, and that kind of attributes to the class of it. But I that is one of the things that I remember the first day stepping on. You go through those gates, you get on campus, and you just completely forget about the city, and you just kind of fall in love with the architecture. You fall in love with the landscape of the campus. And that's definitely something that I remember vividly from, the first few times I went out of campus.
It's an oasis. Had you ever been to New York before, or had you ever been to the Bronx before?
I'd never been to the Bronx before, spent very little time in Manhattan. So yeah, that was like I said, it was a bit of a culture shock when I was driving down from Storrs and ended up stopping in the Bronx. But yeah, that was the first time I had ever been there.
And your major was communications.
Correct. Yep.
And tell me about a favorite subject.
Marketing, and that's what I do to this day. So I was kind of a communications marketing major. And that was always something that I loved, especially coming from sports. I always kind of wanted to get into sports marketing. Ended up taking a little bit of a turn on that, but still in the marketing field. But really, it was just kind of the marketing aspect, really, trying to connect to people and trying to figure out a way to take a product and connect it to a mass audience. That was always something that fascinated me, something that still fascinates me to this day. I'm still learning new things every single day. So that was, that was what I did, in my time in Fordham, and what I'm still doing to this day.
Least favorite subject?
Math. Nobody likes math.
That would be me.
Yeah,
Yes.
nobody likes math.
Was there a professor who inspired you and made a lasting impression, Mike?
I don't think I have one in particular. Quite honestly, one of the awesome parts of Fordham was the fact that, being a smaller school, you're in a class of 25, 30 people at the most. I had some classes that were 10 to 15 people, where at UConn I was in, these assembly halls with 200-300 kids. So you don't really get that personal interaction with professors. And I think that was something that was really, really awesome about being a student athlete at Fordham, where, you have all the obligations of your sport. Now you have to pile on all your schoolwork and stay up to pace with that. Having those personal relationships with professors made it a lot easier, because you had that ability to go to them and ask them questions, even ask them for maybe some private extensions a little bit. So you had that ability to kind of speak one-on-one to them, where if you're at a bigger school, you really don't have that.
Favorite building on campus?
Quite honestly, it's not a building. It's that the courtyard in the middle there. It's Eddie's. That was the spot you just kind of went and relaxed. Having that courtyard right in the middle of the campus. That big grass field, just go relax, lay down for a second. I think that was probably my favorite part of the campus.
Where'd you live? I heard you lived on Arthur Avenue.
Yep, lived on Arthur Ave, off campus at
you had an apartment, and when you moved into the apartment, there was a Ted Nugent poster on the wall. Or did you put the Ted Nugent poster on the wall?
I put the Ted Nugent poster up.
Ted Nugent come and put his poster on your?
I wish Ted Nugent had come and put that up. That would have been one hell of a day for me. But unfortunately, it was just my poster at the end of the day.
Did you live anyplace else beside on Arthur Avenue?
Nope, that was where I spent. All 2.5 of my years there.
Favorite hangout? If you ever had any time, favorite hangout?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard question, because you really didn't have a whole lot of time. In the time that you did have, you just wanted to kind of go relax and lay in bed, or go lay on the couch with your roommates and play some video games. You just don't get a whole lot of time as a student athlete to kind of relax and go hang out with friends.
Want to talk about the cafeteria food?
I think we should probably pass on that subject.
Okay. Did you have any time to work? Did you have any time to work any jobs when you were at Fordham?
Nope, no time for that either. It was strictly football and school.
What was your favorite year at Fordham?
That's a tough one, because both my junior and senior year were special in different ways. I think my junior year was special in the fact that everything was a first, right? First FCS win, first ranked win, first nationally televised game. So that was a special year in the terms of, everything was a first for the school, for the program, for the players. Obviously, I think the year before we went like 6-5 or something like that. So a winning season, but not nearly the success that we had that junior season. But then I think my senior year was different in the way that, I was hurt that year. I was playing on a torn ACL, so I wasn't really the player that I was my junior year. But it allowed other guys to step up. Guys like Chase Edmonds, a freshman running back out of Pittsburgh, who's now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, having an incredible NFL career. That was a freshman that nobody recruited, nobody really wanted. Coach Moore had found him, took a chance on him, and he knew the situation of what I was going through. He knew I wasn't going to be running for 600 yards in the season. He stepped up for us, and the wide receiver stepped up for me. Offensive line stepped up. They knew that I wasn't going to be as mobile. So that was a special year in the fact that, a lot of players knew what was at stake. We knew how to win. We knew what we wanted to get done. And everybody stepped up in different ways to make sure that we had a successful season.
Talk about handling pressure.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was something that I don't want to say it came easy, but I always kind of grew up with it. Especially in high school. My junior year there, again, we were not a program that was used to winning. We came out of nowhere, and really just kind of took the Virginia area by storm, or the state of Virginia by storm. And everybody wanted to come in, interview us, film our games, do all these different things. So I think it was something that at an early age, I kind of just learned to block out the noise, focus on the task at hand, focus on your team, focus on executing, and don't worry about what other people are talking about. Don't listen to anything. And most importantly, when you're having success, I think the biggest thing that I learned to really continue the success is don't read your press clippings. You see so many kids nowadays that start having some success. They hop on Twitter, they hop on Google, and they start reading everything, right? They start reading how great they are. They start reading how great their team is. The moment you start doing that is the moment you start getting complacent. And that's something that we prided ourselves really as a team, to block out the noise, don't read your press clippings, and focus on the task at hand, focus on the week one by one, and go out there and execute.
When did you begin to feel comfortable at Fordham?
Quite honestly, I think I felt pretty comfortable going into my junior year, and it's weird that you never want an injury, right? You never want an ACL tear. You never want to go through that rehab process, but I think because of that injury, really attributed to the success that I had and that the team had, because it allowed me to, instead of jumping right into the office and basically going trial by fire, it allowed me to kind of take a step back, heal myself, heal my body, really dig into the playbook, learn every single nuance of the playbook, learn the offense inside and out, like I was, basically Joe Moorhead playing football. And it allowed us to go into the spring and do 7-on-7 drills. That's really all I did during spring practice was 7-on-7. I did no teamwork. And it allowed me to get really, really in tune with the wide receivers, all that 7-on-7 drill that we did throughout the entire spring, the entire summer, and then going into fall camp, that really allowed us to hit the ground running. And I think you saw that really in game one and game two. We were, putting up 40, 50 points a game, which is kind of unheard of in the early season, because a lot of times that early season is really just players kind of trying to get their feet wet, start hitting the ground running. But all that offseason work that we had because of my ACL, it allowed us to just basically game one, we're already flying. We're already basically hitting on all cylinders. And that really kind of attributed to the success that we had that junior year.
Mike, what drove you as an athlete, and who, if anybody, motivated you beside you?
I think what really drove me was just, I've always been a competitor. I've always loved competing. I've always wanted to be the very best at my position, in the game. And that's what really drove me as a player. That's what drove me to work hard, work as hard as I could, work harder than everybody else. But at the end of the day, it's really not about me. A quarterback's only as good as his team around him. And my success really is attributed to the players that I had around me. I mean, we had an unbelievable wide receiver core, first team in D1 history to have 3,000 or 4,000 yard receivers and a 1,000-yard tight end. So it was the guys around me that allowed me to succeed, and they allowed me to compete even harder because, that junior year, really, as we kind of started getting towards the end of the year, we were looking at the Walter Payton Award. And I was kind of right up there with Jimmy Garoppolo at the time, who was at Eastern Michigan, Eastern Washington, something like that. And, seeing what he was putting up, it drove me. Basically, one day he'd be putting up 450 and 3 touchdowns. I'd go out and say, all right, I need to go put up 500 and 4 touchdowns. So having those different guys that were in the FCS with me at the time really kind of helped drive me. But really, it's all about competition. It's about competition, what drives an athlete, what drove me, and just trying to be the best player you can be.